Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also listen to this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we have a PayPal account for any donations that you'd like to give. Your generosity is greatly appreciated.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gate Expectations podcast, where I bring in a weekly guest, talk all things Yu-Gi-Oh!, and get to know a little more about each person I talk to. This is the only Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast that is run by a full-fledged journalist, such as myself. This is episode 34. If you haven't checked it out yet, you can check out earlier podcasts with guests like Stephen Trifanowski, Jesse Cotton, Team Samurai X1, Farfa, Crush Cards, Simo, and many more. My guest for this week is a Shonen Jump and YCS topper. He ran Voltage Games in a partnership with Jeff Jones, and now he's living the life I used to live as a professional wrestler. It's Alex Thunderpants Vansant T-Pants. So good to have you on the podcast, buddy.
Hey, man, it's good to be here, Bowie. You're the best. So.
You know I love you, buddy. You know I love you.
I love you too, man.
So T-Pants, man, like lately I've been seeing you like again, like as we mentioned, you do wrestling now, which is and I know you talked to me a whole bunch about it when we saw each other at events, and we'd always like have fun. We'd like chop each other and then chest a little bit in there and do a little big woo. So like I know it's a little off topic, but first of all, just quickly walk me through like how you kind of went like from Yu-Gi-Oh now to wrestling, whereas me it was like Yu-Gi-Oh then mixed with wrestling, but then I went back to Yu-Gi-Oh. But you took kind of went the different route now.
Right. I mean, well, this is kind of like a whole story comes out of this, but I've always loved wrestling, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I actually tie wrestling to Yu-Gi-Oh all the time. Actually, it was a pretty easy transition, and Yu-Gi-Oh actually helped me quite a bit with wrestling as far as psychology and stuff goes, and developing a character. Because as Pateo and Rob used to always, Rob Cedar used to always say, I was one of the gimmicks. So gimmicks in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it actually kind of flowed pretty well. I mean, outside of all the physical stuff, like that was pretty rough. I know you know what it's like to train.
Yep.
A lot of bumps. It's really hard on the body. And I was getting so I may look young to some, but I'm not as young as you'd think. I'm about to turn 30. So I didn't feel like I had that much time left to do something that I've always wanted to do. So I did it. I dropped everything, got back in shape. And, I went through wrestling school with House of Truth, trained by Truth Martini. But I asked you quite a bit, I know, especially early on, just trying to navigate the world of wrestling, because it's funny. I made a joke about it where I was just like, man, like I left an industry where I went state to state in Knights of Columbus halls and convention halls, selling a bunch of like T-shirts and stuff to a bunch of dudes. Yeah. And then I entered a new world where I go place to place in convention centers and sell a bunch of merch to dudes. I'm like, yep. The more we stay the same.
Yeah, no, it's so funny that that those are a few parallels that are between Yu-Gi-Oh and wrestling that we've had, and of course, as you and I both know, like there are very few like Yu-Gi-Oh players that are actually involved with wrestling. I know Ben Parker is one of those guys that he does like ring announcing in it. I don't know of many others. I think there's a guy named Justin Nelson who's also involved in it too. I know one other guy in my Ontario indie scene. He kind of plays Yu-Gi-Oh, but he wasn't like hardcore like when we are. It wasn't as big as us. So there are like some out there, but it's very few, far in between that you see a lot of these guys. And I've always made the suggestion that like, man, at like nationals sometime, we should just like put on a big wrestling show and just kind of cosplay as
bust it out of nowhere.
Yeah, just cosplay as Yu-Gi-Oh characters. Yeah. Because they have like the live duels and whatnot with the actual voice actors. I mean, just imagine doing that with like actual wrestlers. It would be pretty entertaining, at least to say in the least. Or if you had like managers as the duelists, and then the monsters are the wrestlers themselves. I mean, this is just a funny little like idea I just had in my back pocket just to kind of throw for fun. Probably won't happen, but it's just a funny thought.
What's this? Dark Magician just attacked Breaker with a steel chair. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's recruited Dark Magician Girl. It's a double suck down. It's a swerve. It's a swerve, brother. I love it. I feel like despite there not being that many Yu-Gi-Oh players involved in the wrestling business, I feel like there's a huge crossover fan base, actually.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand why there aren't so many people who do both, because working like wrestling, you're like, I have a full schedule on the weekends pretty much every weekend. And like when I take them off, it's like that's my me time. Like I need, like when I take a weekend off or like a day off on the weekend, it's usually to do something very specific. And you know, and that's the goal. You know, I'm lucky to be like booked like that, but kind of like I want to still make time to go to at least 1 or 2 YCSs a year. I don't know if I'll play, but I just want to come out and see everybody. You know, like I want to try to make it out to nationals or something like that. You know, schedule allowing, and so I want to still be able to come out to that stuff. But I do understand how big the time commitment is to do wrestling, and how like it's really hard to do both because again, everything is on the weekends.
Yes.
So
and that's kind of the trouble I had too when I was being a professional wrestler, is that kind of juggling both. I mean, like I couldn't play like Yu-Gi-Oh as hard as I wanted to and then do wrestling as well, because again, as you said, it all happens on the weekend, so it's so hard to schedule. Like I've had to choose like doing like Yu-Gi-Oh events, or like if I want to do like wrestling over Yu-Gi-Oh. It's a tough decision sometimes to make, and I've definitely had to miss out on like some big Yu-Gi-Oh events just because I had like one wrestling show that they just needed me for 10 minutes and then that was it. But you know, sometimes you kind of have to make those decisions in life. It gets tough, but you know, that's the kind of sacrifice you got to make when you do professional wrestling. And now that I've kind of settled down a bit, I put it on the back burner now because I went back to school and graduated, but now you're kind of entering it, whereas like now you're kind of like continuing on what I did, and now like you're becoming this like big superstar now, like in the Michigan area.
I don't know about all of that. I don't know about that. In the words of another of a vet around here, humble yourself, rookie.
yeah, really. Like I still feel like even after 10 years, like going on 11 in the business, I still feel like I'm a bit of a rookie sometimes compared to everyone else, because I kind of did it part-time, where you know, I wasn't quite as experienced as all the other guys, but now you're starting to do it like more full-time and everything like that, which is awesome to see. And like when I had this conversation with you, I think it really stemmed a lot from like Chicago. I think it was the last time we really talked in depth about wrestling, and we chopped each other again. And you know, I knew him, like you told me you started training. Like I was so proud of you because I knew that like you had the personality, first of all, because we've been friends for so many years. I knew you had the physique behind you, and I'm like, man, T-Pants could definitely be a part of it, because like you're a character in real life, because that's who you are in real life. Like you're fun, you're outgoing. I love being around you. We have so much fun when we're actually together.
Oh, for sure.
And I knew that that's the kind of energy that like you could like transport into wrestling. And you know, when I watch your stuff, man, it's so fun to watch it and know that, you know, like that's my guy, that's my man, and I'm glad like I could be a part of like a small part of like his success, man. But like again, man, I'm so happy that you went into wrestling and you've been enjoying it.
Thank you so much. I put you over all the time to all the wrestlers around here, to be honest. Like, I got this. I got a big vet friend. His name's Dave. You probably don't know him. He's from Toronto. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
put you over all the time. So.
well, I mean, it's not unheard of that like we would have to cross borders to do some shows. So I mean,
for sure.
If for some reason I have to travel to Michigan, like we could just go have some fun for a weekend and just like work a show or something like that. I can like manage you, and I can manage you, and you know, help put you over, that kind of thing, because that's very common. Like there's a lot of wrestlers that cross borders from like the US to Canada, like all over the place, especially in Ontario. I see so many states wrestlers all the time. So I'm sure that the same happens on the other end of the spectrum too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to come over, especially if you know, like when COVID. You know, I picked a great year to come into this, right?
Yeah.
So when the COVID restrictions are lifted a little bit, and hopefully a lot of people are vaccinated, you know, we can really start doing some stuff. But I'd love to go over there and check it out, especially if you want to maybe manage me or do something like that. We can work together. That would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah,
we'll definitely work something out eventually in the future, man. But again, it's kind of funny just seeing like the parallels of wrestling and kind of Yu-Gi-Oh take place, because you know because there are some people, let's kind of get into this a little bit more, but there are some people out there in the Yu-Gi-Oh world that kind of like adapt like a little bit of a gimmick. It's a parody of themselves. Like when we look at like Triff or we look at Sam, they're like the big hype men. but they're kind of like that in
Right.
real life. And that's kind of the way
Yes.
that, like, that's kind of like the way that we are in real life. But maybe if we put on like a little face for like the Yu-Gi-Oh community, maybe we're a little bit more accentuated in the way. And that's also kind of the way we are in wrestling too. Like they're funny little parodies of ourselves that we put. And that's kind of a thing we see online as well with all these Yu-Gi tubers as well. Because I'm sure you and I we've met a lot of these guys who who are big and successful in YouTube. Like Robbie Cole, I know both of us are pretty close with. We know them. We know how he is in real life. Yeah, I love him too. We know how he is in real life. We know how he is as a persona when he's on YouTube. Like Jonathan Moore, we know him like that as well. Like we could run down the entire list of everybody that we know online, because you and I are part of the old guard as well as the new guard, knowing everyone, and we know who they are. We've been around the block. We know it. We could honestly talk about this all night. Not going to, but we really could about how there are like some parallels in the wrestling world compared to the Yu-Gi-Oh world.
So, I mean, like when you talk about guys like John Moore, and you talk about Robbie Cole, those guys are sharp as a tack. Those are smart guys. And when you talk about building a brand like that, and I know a lot of new guys have come up to do it as well. When you talk about building a brand, they had a definitive character in mind, who they are in front of the camera, which is themselves, again, turned up to 11, just like you do it in wrestling. And for sure, like, I think it's very beneficial to not, I wouldn't say make yourself a gimmick, but if it fits in Yu-Gi-Oh, like have a thing, because no matter how many tournaments you win, whatever, like there's no money in it. You're not making money. Like you spent money to travel, you're spending money to do this and that and on your deck. Like there's, and things are getting tighter and tighter as far as trading and vending and all that stuff goes. Like there's more and more competition. People are smarter. Everyone's got an iPhone. Everyone knows how much everything is worth. And so like, if you want to stand out in something that's very crowded, everyone's trying to make money in Yu-Gi-Oh, you're going to stand out by having a gimmick. You're going to stand out by having something that says that's you. And if you're just another player, like I say it all the time, there's a million people out there who have 8, 9, 10 YCS or Shonen Jump or national like top premier event tops, and people don't know who the hell they are. And of course they don't, because why do I care? That's even like why certain people, like, I'm not saying like screw your chances over of winning a major event by making your deck all screwy or playing something completely not meta, but when you put that extra like flavor in there and you have like your thing, if like deck building in particular is like your thing, that's going to be something that makes you stand out a little bit more. You know, how you dress at events all the time, that could be something that makes you stick out just a little bit more. And that's going to get you feature matches. Feature matches are going to get you sponsored. And that's the reality. If you want to get sponsored, it's not just about wins and losses. It is like, it's important, but guys with way lower credentials who get way more feature matches, they want to feature who's interesting. They want to put who's interesting on the streams. Get that. Do that. Make your money. That's how you're going to do it. And now you're the person everyone wants to trade with, because they know you from, now you can build that YouTube brand. They know you from YouTube. They know you from feature matches. They know you from this. So definitely, like, you're absolutely right. There's some people who have gimmicks in Yu-Gi-Oh, and good for you. Like, turn that up. That's how, like, make your money. Be a brand, make your money. There's no money in the prizes.
Yeah, and I think a great example of this is a great guy, love him, and he's also a fantastic player, Vansant. He made a
love
huge gimmick.
Tundo, man.
Yeah, love Tundo. He made a great gimmick off running off these insane FTK, OTK decks and like piloting them. Now he did have
Giant
some
Trunade.
tops. Yeah, like he did have tops, but at the same time, like he could like go into an event and play these really tricked out decks, and that's how he was really famous back in the old guard, because he had that creativity with those kinds of decks. But he was also a great player in his own right, because he's top before without like having to go with a big gimmick. But that's how people knew him in the old guard. It was because of all that. But we also knew that he also was a great player on top of that as well. So that was a big
Another
example.
Smart guy.
Yeah, another
Very
smart
guy.
fantastic person. And
he carried that
again,
into Magic, didn't he?
I don't know if he actually played Magic. That I'm actually not sure of.
Okay, but I yeah.
But like nonetheless,
I did a lot of articles.
Yeah, he definitely wrote a lot too, and it was.
And that's how he got that.
Player.
That's because he's interesting.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah,
he's different. He didn't get those jobs because he was playing. He wasn't getting those jobs because he was doing what everyone else was doing. And and I know this is a little bit off topic, but it's very important for a lot of players who are trying to improve themselves in Yu-Gi-Oh. I know that I don't quite know the meta right now or what's going on, but having been around like the Michael Jordans of the game for so long, I will tell you this. Like playing the meta, if you think what won the last YCS is going to win this YCS card for card, you are a fool.
Cannot happen.
Card for card, it will not happen. Nope. Because the people who built that last deck, whoever it was, the person who won it might not be the person who built the deck. And the person who built that deck is thinking 3 steps ahead of what the next deck is going to be. They already know how to beat it. They already know the weaknesses because they put the time in to play test. And like, you better do your own thing. You better come up with your own strategies. You could like watch the meta, pay attention to it, play the meta, but you better have your own something, maybe in the sideboard, maybe in the deck. That you have to think for yourself. You cannot let it be. You can't just play. And this is weird. This is like a weird aside, but I've noticed that if you're gonna play your deck, right, and if you're gonna play something, even if it's meta, certain decks work for different play styles. And I know some people don't think that there's a play style, and that's because there's levels to this. In Yu-Gi-Oh, there's levels, and there's different like that's why different players. A lot of different players tend to flourish in different metas. Some people are way better when it's slowed down. Some people are way better in like the attrition game. Some people are way better at creating a wombo combo. Some people are just better at like deck building. Like how you like you have to look at like how you play. Like what do you and how you play is what you like. You know what I mean? Like the decks that you like is where you're going to be the strongest. When you play things that you don't like or you don't believe in, if you start playing a deck at a YCS that you don't believe in, even if it's the quotes best deck, you're not going to do as well because you don't have the time testing with it. You might catch some people off guard. You don't know playing like your own thing, but at the end of the day, playing someone else like certain tech cards work for certain people because that's what like they know it, they like it. And that's what they want to do. And like, it just feels better. It feels better when you win, knowing that like, this is my thing. This is my gimmick. This is like, I did that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely hear you. And then going back to the gimmicks real quick. And like, we see that, you know, like,
sorry, I got off topic.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries. We can get back to what you said after that too. You know, we look at Robbie Cole, like he's the gadget guy. He plays gadgets. Everybody knows that he does gadgets. Like Triff does pendulums. Like Farfa, he does like BA. Like everybody's got the thing. Jonathan Moore, he's got 6 samurais. I can keep going on with this list again and again. Like, you know, something's known for like someone's known for something. In some way,
but you know what all those guys have in common? All those guys made money in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
And you know what? That's so hard. When you talk about pro players, I mean, like at the top, when you're at the top of the mountain and you look down and you realize that there's no money in this, all the money was sitting at the base. All the money was from those guys who did so much with not quite as much. They didn't have a bunch of wins, a million tops. They have tops for sure. Those guys are great players, but it was all in the brand. Like John Moore forever with one win, with the 6 Samurais, he carried his like a huge brand with that. He made a ton of money doing it because everyone knew who he was. Since then he's won again, hasn't he? He's a champ.
So who won? Sorry,
John Moore.
No, he's only won the one. No, he's only won the one.
Okay,
yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Good for him. I mean, like, but that, again, he did so much with that. Robbie, like, he does a lot. He has quite a few tops. But again, like, you think of him in a vein next to someone who maybe has, like, 15 tops. And he has, what, like 7 or 8 probably?
Around there? It's probably around that.
7 or 8. Someone has, like, 15, and you're like, oh, I don't know who they are, but I know Robbie Cole. That's because Robbie Cole was able to do so much with that. He, like, the brainchild behind Zodiac. You know what I mean?
Yep. Look at Jarrell Pro Winston, for example. Like, even though he was famous before then, you know, he makes it to Worlds and then he runs Exodia. He popped off. He popped off with Exodia, and then ever since that day, he's been like an elite tier player. When he decided to keep going with the game as long as he did until he decided to just stop. Like, you know, like. People knew him for like his Exodia, and then he started his own YouTube channel and like he had his own catchphrase that like everybody was was on like crazy. Like when he was on YouTube, like people were just catching on to his
It's your
brand
boy
like
Pro
crazy.
Winston, baby.
Yeah, it's not pro, it's got to go. Like that was his thing. And
Yeah.
people around my local would say it, people at other events would say it. I'd always see people say that to Pro Winston all the time when I see him at events as well. And it's that branding, it's that repetition, it's building your own character, your own moniker that really appeals out. And I think that's a big thing that kind of gets lost with a lot of these these people who want to be like Yugi tubers and whatnot, and like there's a dime a dozen of those out there, and there's obviously a lot of people who aren't quite as successful that they just kind of do the same thing. They haven't like found their gimmick, they haven't found their niche yet, and it's easy to get lost. But if you find some way to kind of stand out from the crowd and then get noticed, I mean that's when you start to take off, and that's a common theme that we've been seeing from all these these big names that they've had. There's something that you just know them from specifically, and because of that, like that's how they've been able to take off. And again, that's like the parallel we draw from wrestling, is that like you can't just go in there being this bland normal guy, except for maybe Lance Storm, except for maybe him. But
that's because the bland is his charisma is
being bland.
Yeah.
But like
if you want to say Dwight Schrute didn't have charisma, Dwight Schrute was one of the most popular people on The Office.
Yeah, love Dwight Schrute. But that's the thing though.
Different kinds of charisma.
Yeah, but people who like don't actually use that as like their gimmick or whatnot, it's easy to get lost in it. There's it's like who are you? What? Like, because you don't know they don't know what they know you for. It's like, why should I know you? Like, how should I know you? And then we go to Jeff Jones, because I know you know him very well. Like
you're talking about Jeff,
yep. Like he always like tops events with like some of the weirdest decks out there. He's probably one of the best like innovative players to ever play the game, and you don't know what you're gonna go against when you play against him, for example. And so just examples like that of how like these players can build their brand, and if they just wanted to like start their own like YouTube channel, they can explode easily, no problem.
So something I want to say about guys like Jeff, Billy, Patrick, and I had the most time with Jeff, but I got to spend a lot of time with all those guys. Mm-hmm. And what I will tell you about every single one of them, like those crazy decks that Jeff comes up with, that doesn't happen like quickly. He's testing all the time. He's testing things that haven't come out yet, things that might come out. He's like he puts in the work. He outworks everyone. He outworks everyone. Billy, same thing. He outworked everyone when he's putting stuff together. So like when you think about like Jeff had a really cool deck, like how did you think? Like of course he played the meta. He's above the meta. He knew what was going to happen. And what I'm saying is like if you try to do a Jeff Jones deck after Jeff Jones already played it, you're months behind, because he's got something way ahead for you for that next event. He's got sideboard cards that people didn't even think of that already beat his last deck. And so like, I mean, Max, same way. Like, those guys practice all of the time. They do not stop. Everything, they're thinking about it. On the rides home, they're thinking about, Yu-Gi-Oh! They're thinking about this. They're thinking about that. And to be honest, when I stopped playing, my final... we'll talk about that too, probably. When I came back for a little bit in, like, the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, right before Lynx. And I do want a little bit talk about when I quit, but why... I stopped playing is, first of all, I felt like I had a very cathartic end to me playing. And second of all, I knew like while I was running Voltage, and like also even when I was running Voltage, like in the back of my mind, it was a little bit, oh man, like I really want to do wrestling. I really want this. Oh, but can I? Like I'm kind of old now. Like I'm already in on this. And I knew that like I wasn't as good as I used to be. Like when I was playing, I knew I wasn't as good as I used to be because I didn't have the time. I had the advantage of, guys like Jeff who were willing to like do some of the work for me and test and like help me out. But at the end of the day, like I wasn't as sharp when I was playing. I believed in what I was playing, but I didn't believe it like I used to. Like when I was like really there was a time where I felt that I could have competed with literally anyone in the world and beat them. And I would have put any amount of money against any player. And I thought that I would have won. I mean, they would have won too. But at that moment, they would have, but that's who I was playtesting with. I was playtesting with the Billies. I was playtesting with Patrick. I was playtesting with Jeff. Like, those are the guys. And so, like, my heart just wasn't in it anymore. That's when I went to wrestling. But also, it's like, if you want to talk about like being the next Jeff Jones, you want to talk about being the next Billy Brake, the next Patrick, it's work. It's put in the work. And the guy who's done that a lot lately is Joe Bogley. So big shout out to him.
Bogley, great guy.
Love that guy.
Yeah, love him too. Great player. I had the pleasure of playing him at the only YCS that I topped. Thankfully, I beat him, but only because he had a couple unlucky draws in the last little bit, so that's why I was able to take advantage of it. Fantastic guy, and I was a little bit nervous when I had to play against him. Like, this guy's a world's competitor. This guy's a really cool cat. Like, he's the real deal. And I was nervous, and I was a little bit taken aback that I actually got the win on him. But fantastic guy, and we always have like a good conversation every time we see each other now when we played each other 5 years ago. So yeah, big shout out to Joe Bogley for being a great guy and a great player for sure.
For putting you over.
Thanks
for laying down.
He put me over for once. All right.
There you go.
For those who don't know, that's like a wrestling term for somebody letting the other person win. Yeah, just for those who don't understand wrestling as well, because we're using a little bit of wrestling jargon in there as well. So now moving into kind of the later years of when we played the game now, like I was still kind of going strong, and then you started vending a little bit more. So talk to me more about what made you decide to like start Voltage Games with Jeff Jones and kind of the evolution of all of that.
Okay, well, I think to get to there, you have to talk about the alt reality thing.
Yeah.
I have to talk about that, like that bringing, and so man, I just realized there's something else I wanted to bring.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I will. Speaking of Jeff, congratulations to Jeff for Argent Saga. That's super cool. He's and I don't talk as much as we used to, but he's always wanted to start his own game. He always wanted to do that, and I didn't always have the right financial backing to be able to do it at the scale that he would like to. And so big congratulations to him. That was always his dream. I'm so proud of him for that. That's so cool. That was so cool. So cool. So yes, alt reality thing. I was vending a little bit on my own, doing it more and more. And then this guy showed up and talked to me at a Yu-Gi-Oh! Regional. And I had never met him. And he apparently was at like a YCS Houston, I think, right before that, where he met Jarrell. And he was like, I want to put a team together. I want to start a writing team, and I want to like really take over this game, because like I see what they're doing in Magic with Star City, with Channel Fireball, etc., and there really isn't that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. And this guy showed up to me, and I'd never met him before, and he goes, "Is your name Thunderpants?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Cool. I was told to talk to you." And I was like, "Interesting." He goes, "My name is Jim, and I'm the owner of Alt Reality Games." I go, and that was the beginning of this. So I had known. So we have to start with this story to get to the other story.
Yep.
So I didn't know him. No one knew him yet, but we knew of the brand a little bit. But they were just starting to blossom out. I think that like they had the. I think the writers were. I can't remember someone, and it was. Oh my gosh, the name's escaping me right now. He is an old guard player from Toronto. It was before he got his first big win. He had a couple tops. It's escaping me.
Josh Graham?
Whatever. Josh Graham. Thank you.
There you go.
Josh, yes. And he's doing poker right now, right?
I believe he is, yeah. He's or like I think he's also doing Hearthstone as well.
Yeah, that's a good. Hey, make your money, man. Make your money. Seriously, make your money. So yeah, him, and then he talked to me, and he talked to Jeff. And, we started like doing some stuff. He asked Jeff and I, like, who's someone that we need to get? I said, you need to get, especially with Jeff, get Billy Brake. That's someone who you absolutely need. And I think Billy I think he was just coming off of a win or something like that. And then he joins up with us and wins like 2 in a row, like not long after that. So he was hot fire. Meanwhile, Jim was a little bit more interested in me for like the vending side. So I was like, cool. So I was showing him I showed a little bit the ins and outs with that. They would have got there anyway without me, but we worked on building like the brand, like optimizing how to vend, focus on buying, where to go. And Brad, really led the charge on that. So we were doing that pretty frequently. And so I was playing less and less, becoming less of in the world of wrestling, an in-ring talent, or I was becoming less and less of a player and more of a vendor, getting involved on the business side more and more, making those connections. And after a while, there was that falling out between Ultra Reality and Konami. And there was a transition period. And in that time period, I was like, okay, here's an opportunity. There was a gap left, especially in the Midwest, for a new vendor. And Detroit, which is my hometown, was getting we were hosting nationals that year. I think that was 2014. And so I was like, cool, big opportunity. Let's do it now. So we opened the store. I talked to Josh. We fired it off. And yeah, I basically wanted to parlay those open spots now that were kind of vacated by Ultra Reality. And I thought of it in a way that not only is there money to be made, yes, but at the same time there are fans to there are players to be serviced. There was a break in the market. So there were these people going place to place to place to place, and some of them at certain regionals, maybe they didn't have that vendor who was going to have, at least X of some popular cards when they got there. Maybe they weren't going to be able to buy, they weren't going to buy as much, so you didn't have as much money for entry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to make sure people were serviced, and that worked out, and it was a blast. I had so much fun doing all of that. So. Yeah, and that's essentially what Voltage Games was, to be totally honest with you. Our in-store, we had big Friday night tournaments, but mostly we were just focused on, we were on the road every single weekend. There was almost no weekend that we were not on the road.
Yeah, that could be that could be tough.
That was brutal for me, especially.
But technically, that's kind of training you a little bit in wrestling, because if you have to travel every weekend, that's kind of a parallel. Going back to that, why don't you explain to us what exactly happened between Konami and Ultra Reality Games? Because I remember the whole entire fiasco.
Has it been long enough?
Yeah, but I feel like the newer guard may not remember what exactly happened during that time.
Heat. I'm gonna have to remember it a little bit myself.
Yeah.
And again, this is going to be coming from somebody who, while I was pretty in the thick of it, I wasn't the guy who makes decisions on either end.
Yeah.
But I was very close to the situation. No.
Because I remember there, at that point, they had a big falling out. I kind of forget what happened exactly, but we saw ARG starting to run their own events. They even ran their own ban list.
That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
So I will actually screw it. I am going to tell you, and I'll tell you all of it right now.
Okay.
Exclusive happening right now. Here you go. All right. Let me tell you, and I will not name anyone on the Konami side.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's perfectly fine.
Okay. I do not want to name any names over there. And obviously, I ended up staying with Konami, so I appreciate everything that they do. So I love those guys. I think they do a great job. Also, I love Jim. I think he does a great job. Talk about a guy who is a marketing genius. That guy knows marketing. Big props to Ultra Reality. Thank you for everything you've ever done for me. Now, this story. Oh, man. So, Jim had been planning to do the circuit series. I think it was called something else at first, I think he wanted to call it a pro tour, but Star City had pro tours, so we had to change it up, right? So, circuit series. That was the big game plan. They were going to do it. And at first, it was going to be Konami backed. It was going to be official tournaments, and they were going to. Yes, they were going. This is the juice, right? They were going to be tournaments that affected things within there wasn't anything no nationals invites or anything were going to be given out, but things were going to happen. Now, I have to give some background on what goes on from an organized play standpoint with Konami, because some people don't understand this, but from store owner standpoint and someone who got to do a lot of this, I can tell you why certain things are the way that they are.
Yep.
For example, why there are no cash prizes, why this and that. So the reason that there are no cash prizes is because it has nothing to do with Konami United States. It has nothing to do with Konami. No, a little bit to do with Konami in Japan, but realistically, the rights are also owned by Shonen Jump, and the creator, he did not wish for it to be. he felt as though it would be a little bit used for like gambling, etc. And he wanted to make sure that it was easily accessible for kids and not something that adults just kind of mouth on.
Yeah.
And that is why there are no cash prizes. Outside of like, there's also tax issues with it, but like that isn't the real reason. That has nothing to do with it. Like, they had solved that. And so for anyone who's like, we don't want, like, why aren't you doing cash prizes? Blah, blah, blah. They wanted to. Trust me. Like they are on your side. They hear you. They know. But it is beyond their control. It is beyond the control of people within the game itself. This is like creative saying no. The owner, the person who created, like, yes, no. So he doesn't want it to be that. So a lot of restrictions kind of happened. They ended up pulling back, and then all of a sudden, what was going to be a dual endeavor, Konami started enforcing more and more and more restrictions that started to become a little bit unrealistic. And those were not from necessarily people in Konami. That was coming from like the higher ups that like were not close to the situation at all. And so it was like, it became, okay, well, what rules can we bend? And then it became none of the rules. You can bend none of the rules. And then it became, okay, now they started like creating rules to stop this from happening. As that started happening, Jim was getting like more and more and more frustrated. Eventually it came down to like, hey, like, so are you saying like I can't do this? And they're like, essentially, we're not saying that you can't, but you can't, and to make it profitable, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just more and more red tape to eventually where he kind of really couldn't do it. And then so essentially, the question was basically, is it no? And you don't tell Jim no. Jim does not like to hear no. So it became, oh, no? We'll see about that. So it was screw it. So we went from doing the most, vending the most events, making I will say the most money behind the booth, doing all of the biggest events. That was the split. It was screw it. Like, we can do this and it will still be successful and it will not impact our business. And it didn't. I mean, like, it was lean for a little bit, but they doubled down into Magic the Gathering, started doing a lot more Grand Prix, and they stayed afloat. And on the same side, Konami said, okay, you want to leave? We don't need you either. And things went well for Konami too. You know what I mean? So they were both right. That's kind of how it ended. But there was bad blood for a little bit. And so actually to the extent that when I split off, some people thought that I was basically like just a front for Ultra Reality coming back because it's Jeff and I like doing it. I was like, no, we're doing our own thing. Like there's a moment here for us to capitalize, and we're taking it. And so we did our own thing, but again, the questions were there, so we had to pass. Bridges needed to be mended, and they were, and everything was good. And I did really enjoy my time with Voltage Games. It was really, really fun. But inevitably, like, Jeff and I both kind of had dreams that we wanted to accomplish outside of that realm. And so, like, he wanted to, again, do his own game. I wanted to be a pro wrestler. And so, it is what it is. I'm not saying I'd never come back to the industry. But the industry I love a lot. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I love what goes on. I don't know if I'd ever be able to be a full-time player again because I know deep down that I want, like, if I want to get into it, I want to be the best again. And like, I'll be getting angry at myself while trying to relearn things, and it would be hard for me to have fun. But as long as I take it from have some fun, maybe go to an event or two, yeah, I'd love to come hang out. And like, down the line, if it's still going when I'm done with whatever I want to do, maybe I will open another store. Maybe I will do another thing. But right now, I'm just like, I watch guys who are in the even in the Midwest killing it. Like, big shout out to just everyone, all the vendors. Like, support them. By the way, please support them. Like, I know sometimes you want to go to floor traders, but please support your vendors. They will give you good prices. They are very good.
Mhm.
Because those, so I want people to realize that those vendors there, they are jumping through hoops for you and providing a service. Okay, they're providing a service that, like, in general, like if you need sleeves, they got sleeves. They don't make a ton of money on that. They're bulky and annoying to bring around.
Yeah,
But
really don't.
you're not making, like, they don't make hardly anything on that, like percentage wise. In retail, you should be making 40%. You do not make 40% on sleeves outside of Ultra Pro sometimes, but but that's not what people buy.
No.
They bring product for you to have it, and like they're servicing each vendor kind of services a different niche. Like I know some of them are more towards like the casual players and the younger players. Some people have all of the stuff that only the top people need. Like they have, like, they're the ones with ample the player's choice sleeves and all this other stuff when you can't get those other places. Those guys too, please support them. Like they're going to be struggling big time coming off the pandemic. So please support them.
Definitely.
They do offer a service to everyone, and oftentimes you would be surprised their prices are as good or better than some of the floor vendors. So
yeah,
do support them.
Definitely hear you, because considering that I too, like, worked in a card shop. I've been there before, and I would try to offer advice. So we try to cater to like as many different kinds of people as possible, like casual, competitive, whatever. I try to do my very best, because like I've been around that table before, and that's definitely a thing that a lot of people didn't have way back in the day, to like for advice and stuff at the booths. Now we get them all over the place with online resources. It's never been easier now to have those kinds of resources, but definitely was a lot more difficult way back in the day when you and I were more in our prime when it came to playing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's definitely a thing. And going back to the ARG again, what would have happened then had there not been like this amicable divorce between the two?
Amicable, I don't know about that, but messy. It was a messy divorce. It lasted for years, and there were I don't know, actually, just not amicable at all. Not amicable.
Okay, all right.
But there were some personal things said to people close to that relationship between each other. That was not an amicable breakup, even a little bit.
I say that in jest, mind. I say that in jest.
Oh yeah, no. Oh yeah, yes. But for people who might, like, if we're gonna dish, let's dish all the way. Screw it.
Yeah.
Hold nothing back. There was like when like someone's in an argument and you go for like that big air thing where it's like, I probably shouldn't say this. That's gonna this might get me punched, but I'm gonna say it. That kind of stuff was being thrown back and forth. So like it was some serious stuff. So what would have happened, like from the, like, essentially you would have gotten a circuit series that also had Konami backing. Like I don't know what to tell you outside of that, like what it could have grown into. But you would have had supplementary YCSs happening every now and then, run by Ultra Reality, that were just like large tournaments. Yes, they'd give out. I think that it wasn't going to be cash. I think it was something where you get a whole bunch of store credit, and then essentially you could buy it into cash. Like you could like, if you're not a dum-dum, you can like circumvent, use like a prize wall or whatever, and end up getting cash. You know what I'm saying? Through doing it. I believe that. This is like, I'm trying to like pull memory from like 8 years ago.
Yeah. This was a long time.
That I'm a little bit buried in my subconscious. So yeah. It was going to be something like that. I don't know if eventually there would have been maybe prize cards for it. I don't know what would have gone on with that, but there would have been large scale tournaments supplementary to YCSs with its own prize structure, kind of like a circuit series. I just think it was store credit instead of cash, and then you could figure it out from there. And I also think that there was talk of scholarships. I don't know for sure, but I do know Pokemon did that for a while. Yes.
Yep,
Pokemon did for a while.
They did.
I think that could have been an option, but I'm not entirely. Don't quote me on that one. Again, I'm trying to recall things that happened a long time ago.
Yep.
So yeah, these things have stayed under wraps for a very long time.
Yeah,
So like,
that's my job. That's my job to get
I
all
love
of
it.
this
Hey,
out.
I want to say also as an aside, thank you so much for doing a podcast. One of the last things I said and wanted to do before I officially like I left Yu-Gi-Oh and like closed Voltage, one of the very last things I wanted to do was have a podcast because it was lacking in
It really was.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah. And I'm like, a lot of the player base is getting older. Maybe they want to listen to things on. First of all, this is the perfect platform to listen to on a drive to your trip. Like, listen to this while you're playtesting. Listen to this while you're driving to, a regional. When you can do that again. You know what I mean? Do this when you're driving to a YCS. And like, doing work, and it's like this long format that you just don't get. It's like a very like give it to me now. I know Yu-Gi-Oh is very visual and you want to use YouTube all the time, but like I've always felt that Yu-Gi-Oh lagged a little bit in what mediums people were using. Like I felt that people were like, it was great that Robbie brought on Zodiac when he did, because like the fact that people were still using forums in like 2010 was insane to me. And then right. And then from there, you move on a little bit further. Now, like, people are still using Facebook. It's like, hey, guys, why is Twitter not a thing with Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, why are you not using Instagram properly? Like, what is this? Like, people still using YouTube when, like, it should be kind of a split between podcasts and, like, videos, right? Like, do videos for your visual things. But people basically, I notice a lot of people doing essentially, like, short podcasts via YouTube without a podcast, like, outlet. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, and thank you for the compliments, by the way. And that was one thing I definitely wanted to do for, when we get some normalcy again, because I did start this podcast during COVID, is that like when you go on long trips, especially if you go on like long events, because like several people can like make a day's worth of driving out to like for like a YCS or whatnot. Like for me, I have to travel like roughly 8 to 10 hours to get to like the major cities like Columbus, Pittsburgh, Chicago. That's how long it takes me. So, sometimes like, the same CD back when we used CDs for music would kind of get a little stale and boring. We need something a little different. Now we have all these like iPhones and Androids. We have so much access to listen to whatever we want now. And this is kind of like a thing. You want to kill like an hour and a half. You want to talk strategy on the way to the trip. Like listen to the podcast. And, I've had some people come to me and tell me, yeah, like sometimes it takes like an hour to get to my locals. So I would like listen to the podcast a little bit on the way there and then listen to a little bit on the way home kind of thing. Because, sometimes not everybody is like right close to a locals and they need to travel or go to a regionals for that matter. So that's what I was kind of hoping to do. And, like traveling is we all know it's like a big part of the game itself. And like we're both used to it because, you travel on the road all the time for vending, playing, and now wrestling. I've done the exact same thing, maybe to a slightly lesser scale, but still like we've all been there before. And, you got to find some ways to fill that void. And, this is kind of one of the ways to do it is, that podcast. So like, and I started because like, it's part of my background because I studied journalism and I'm like, there are no podcasts around it or like nobody that I know that like solely dedicates it like to a podcast. I think Austin Coleman might be the only other person that kind of does a podcast now.
Love that guy.
Yeah, great guy. I've never met him, but like he's pretty cool, and I love his story. By the way, it's pretty awesome. Like if anyone who doesn't know who Austin Coleman is, the youngest national champion to ever exist. I don't know how old he was.
Netflix actor, baby. Oh yeah, he was 10 when he did it.
Yep.
You know what? And I believe that technically speaking, he is still my best friend because we both had best friend rings that we won somewhere, and in Seattle, and we threw them off of a cliff together. So we are still. Yeah, we are linked in that way. Love you. Austin.
Nice. Yeah. And, Coleman, I think he's the only other person who does a podcast. So that's all I know. I know like other people have done like a little bit of like podcasting on the side. Like I know like Farfa's done it. I know a couple other people who have like are like trying to get into it, but no one who's solely dedicated to it outside of myself and I think Coleman on that matter.
You want some craziness? So right before I stopped, I actually had a few interviews already done in podcast form that I was going to release as like a Voltage Games thing before it was finally like I was like, all right, I want to be done with this. The two of the big ones that I had were Joe Bogley, and I had a crazy interview with Adam Korn.
Yeah.
It was almost like a full blown tell all, like, and the world will never know. You'll never know what I know.
That was like actually my
Okay.
most like popular video on my YouTube channel. Like when I used to YugiTube like several years ago. I remember you were on it. I had you on it,
Yeah.
and then I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I was on your Voltage Games channel when I topped YCS Toronto with Necron. So I mean, we've been on each other's channels before, and we have some like mutual fun helping each other out. So there's definitely a thing for that. So yeah, like
Looking
Adam
really
Korn was
Canadian.
yeah, I know, right?
Do you know how many people actually think I'm Canadian? Like whenever, because I'm from Michigan, and I live 20 minutes from the Windsor border, so I live 20 minutes from Canada. So a bunch of people, like, when I go to like YCS Toronto, etc., literally thought that I was from Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, because you were affiliated with a lot with like Chris Patel, like Rob Cedar, Paul McCann.
Cedar,
yeah, and like Paul's from Michigan, so there's that. But because Windsor and Detroit are like attached at the hip, even though it's like Niagara Falls, like there's an American side and a Canadian side, they're attached to the hip. It's like Windsor, Detroit, they're attached to the hip, and because those two kind of like conglomerate together, people kind of get confused. Where like in that group, it's like, oh, you're Canadian, oh, you're American. No, I'm actually this, and I knew that some people like thought that you were Canadian because of like the group that you hung out with.
Yeah,
and then Cedar would tell me like all the time, like, he'd always go to Detroit like all the time, and like be with all the guys just to play locals one, and then just travel back across the border after he was done. Like he could stay like for like just a day, and then just go back to Bell River where he's from, which is like just right off Windsor, Ontario at the time. So yeah, definitely I can understand how there's a little bit of confusion on where you're from, but I always knew that you were American, though, like ever since like the second I met you and actually like talked to you.
Sorry, I like to grab some poutine and watch the Leafs lose, eh? I mean,
well, I'm not a Leafs fan, so I couldn't care about them at all.
Oh, excellent. I know you're a big Broncos fan, so.
Yeah, I am that. I'm a big LA Kings fan, and when I go down to Detroit, I want to like call up Rob Cedar and say, "Hey, Rob, like, can we like watch like the Kings Red Wings game, and then let's go like let's call up a couple boys and let's go drink, let's go party, let's go have some fun, that kind of stuff. That's what I want to do. Hopefully, when like the borders open up, and now that I have like a car, a career, everything, like I'm fully loaded, and like now I can like have the capability to do all this stuff now. Once borders open back up, man, I totally want to do that.
Yeah, we can Phil Kessel down some hot dogs. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, baby.
Big hockey reference if people don't understand that one. Oh man, so what? So was it like purely wrestling that kind of decided for you to kind of take a step back from playing Yu-Gi-Oh?
I mean, there were a lot of things. Like my mom's health was kind of in question. I really wasn't having fun anymore. From a sense, like I was run down. I was getting sick all the time. I was on the road all of the time. And it was. I would say something that was really rough for me was like coming back to the game, because I decided to play for like 3 months. And I came back and I played, and it was rough. It was like it's weird, like it's like watching, like not being able to play anymore, but going to all of the events, and it just became like every day was bleeding into things. I was like, what day of the week was it? Like where are we today? What city are we in? What's happening? And like that was bleeding together. And it's like watching an ex all of the time, just like hang out with someone who isn't you. It was like watching everyone play when I couldn't play anymore. And I was just like, oh man. So, but I love how I capped it off. Actually, can I talk about that really quick?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, okay. So, there was a brief moment where I decided I would play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, because I just really wanted to capture that feeling again. And I think it was at the end of 2017, but I'm not really sure. I might have my years flipped. You guys can figure it out. It was the event I wanted to play. I did three big ones. I started with YCS Toronto, and I played Monarchs with Uranus in it. Mostly because I wanted to drop my anus on people. I mean Uranus.
I remember that joke from like back then. I think that was 2016 when that happened. That was
16?
Yeah.
Okay, it was 16 to 17 is when that happened. Okay, that makes sense. My years are like, I'm not even joking. I remember the beginning and the end of the Voltage thing. Like it's just kind of like cities were blurring together to me. Like it's crazy. Lack of sleep, all kinds of nutsness. So yeah, I played that. After that, we flew out to Seattle, played there. I did not top. I topped the Toronto, did not top Seattle. And then the last event was Atlanta, and I bubbled out of Atlanta. And then I was like, all right, well, this is it. Because I had learned to play Zodiac at that point. That was like a cool Zodiac.
Yeah.
Right? So I played that. And then there was, and I was like, the links were coming out. The rules were going to change as far as pendulums go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. So I was like, I really like, I don't really want to like learn a whole new thing, like a new mechanic. I don't really want to like delve, like some of the actual rules did change, like as far as pendulums go, spaces, et cetera. And like, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. Like, I'll probably play like one more maybe. And it was the last tournament before I flipped over was a regional in Detroit at Pandemonium Games. And those were like, I had been going to a different location, but regionals at Pandemonium Games since I was a little kid, like a little kid. That's kind of how it all started. Like before there was such a thing as YC or Shonen Jumps, there were regionals, and only the top 4 would get their invite. And like hundreds of people would enter these regionals, and it was crazy. And I was a kid, and it was fun. That's how I met Pateo and Cedar, and how I got the nickname Thunderpants. And that's its own thing. But even before Yu-Gi-Oh existed in America, I had played Pokemon Stadium Challenges at Pandemonium Games, ran by Professional Event Services when I was like 10 years old in like 1999 or 1998, like that long ago. And so like it was really cathartic. I'm like, cool, this will be my last event. It was the last time I got to play Zodiac. I went 9-0, and I was like, what else is there to do? Like, I know it wasn't the YCS. It didn't end with me like going undefeated and winning like a YCS, and that's how I ended. But it felt right. It felt right. I went undefeated, won the regional that I've always wanted to, like, that's where I've always been. Like, I don't even know how many regional tops I have. Like, I didn't calculate them after a while. I think it's triple figures, but that one to me, it was just like, it was amazing. It was just perfect. It was like, that's it. I knew that was it. I mean, if I play now, I'll be playing for fun. I couldn't think of a more perfect way to end it. And after that was over, it was like, what am I doing, man? You know what I mean? What am I doing? Again, it felt like I was watching an X with someone else all of the time, and I was right there holding the bags, being like, yeah, hope you enjoyed that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
because it feels like you've pretty much accomplished like all that you wanted to in this game. I mean, like you've been like a top player for a while. You've been a well-known name for quite some time. You've been able to vend and be affiliated with ARG for a while.
Traveled the world, man.
Yeah, you
I played in Europe. I played a lot. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, man. Like I've known you for years, man. I've known you've done like so much in this game, and like you've done like a huge service to the community, especially with your vending. Because I personally don't really like trade a lot of cards to like a lot of the vendors. I really don't. But you're the one of the very few exceptions that I actually did. Like, I actually let you go through Endbinder and let you take a bunch of cards. I never thought I would like ever like get at it because I know like you're my friend and I want to support your business. I want you to succeed in whatever you do. Of course, like like friends support friends, and like that's I'm like
buy my merch.
Yeah, and like I didn't ask for a discount from you. Like I wanted to just like give it to you straight. I wanted to do it to you straight. I'm like, sure, I'll let you look through my cards, let you pick whatever, man. Because I know that. Like the card business is like a really competitive business with like all the other stores, and it's a tough business to kind of thrive and stay in. Like if you don't have if you're not on top of things like every day, like you're gonna get killed. Yeah, you're gonna get killed. Yeah, and yeah, that's like a big note to everybody out there.
Oh,
have a gimmick. Have a gimmick. Yeah.
To the vendors who are out there right now. And to the ones who are floor vendors, like this is even for you, okay? This is a big deal, and I want you to know this. and the customers, because like if they won't let you do this, like screw them, right? This is to customers too. This is to all players, all right? PSA. When I was vending, if I was looking up a card on my laptop, I would turn the laptop around to show you what the market price was if you asked before I made an offer, okay? That way, you know exactly what it's worth, exactly what I'm offering you, and you can make the decision, all right? And if anyone is not willing to do that, okay, I think that's shady. That's carny stuff. Like, this is like, it's an image that I think a lot of players think like, oh man, like they're just trying to like rip you off, and that's built on a lot of people over the years trying to rip other people off. And if there was a situation where I was offering very low on a card, and you asked, man, that's terrible, why? I would do my best to explain to you why, because there usually was a reason. Like, hey, we've already bought like 500 of these. I can't give you 50% anymore. I can't even give you like, and for a high-end card, like there were times I would pay face value. I would show you what it's selling for on TCG Player, on eBay, on Amazon, whatever, and go, I will buy this hot card for you that's in everyone's deck right now for that price, just to put it back in the case for that price, just so that we can have it for someone who wants to buy it. And like that's the service that a lot of vendors are doing, and I'm not the only vendor who does that. Like lots of people do, and those are the good guys. You know what I mean? Like pay attention for them. And like if you want to protect yourself, like your vendor, please don't rip people off, because that just perpetuates the stereotype. But a lot of the guys out there, like Core, No Limit, like there's so many that are really great. Speaking of No Limit, big shout out to them. They're popping off right now.
They are.
Yeah. Very cool to see that. Like those are the good guys. Talk to them. They're reasonable, and the service that they are providing for you is that like you're at a tournament, like a YCS, a regional, and like you can choose. Like yes, they are going to profit a little bit on it, but you get money right now, and that's money that you can use right now for whatever you need. Like money later is money later, but money now sometimes they're worth a little bit more. That's why ATM exists. So that's why it's your ATM fee.
That's why you get that. Yeah, that's why there's a service charge.
That's your ATM fee.
And what I don't like kind of ripping people off when it comes to trades like that. Like if I make a trade with somebody and it's like you're kind of undervaluing like your own card, like you should take a little more, because you know what that does? It builds a relationship, like a business relationship with that person. Because if you give them like a good deal now, they're thinking, okay, I want to go back to this person later. You're setting yourself up for like long-term business with that person, and like ripping people off. If I found out like I ripped somebody, if somebody found out that I ripped them off, it's like I don't want to deal with them again. Like why would you? You would, and it's not a good business module. That's why you have like so many stores, like, and not just like Yu-Gi-Oh stores, but like so many businesses, so many like have these sales, have these discounts, give these deals, because they want you to come back. They want you to like come back again and be a part of like the long-term business, because you would rather make you'd rather like cheapen a sale a little bit and have someone come back like 20 times as opposed to one person like making a little bit bigger profit and just have them off once. I'd rather have like a bunch of regulars. If I had like a bunch of regulars that just like service me like for the rest of my life, I didn't have any new customers, like I'd be fine with that, because they're the ones that are still paying my bills and still keeping me afloat. And if that's who I have to serve to keep myself afloat, so be it. I would do that like happily all the time.
Hell yeah. Of course, that's doing it right. You got to do it right. And so, I mean, now on the same time, like if you feel at some point that I ripped you off or something like that, it probably was an accident. I probably didn't know. Something probably happened. Like, I can't tell. Like, I don't know what I don't know. So if I offer you something too low on something that like just spiked, I don't know. Like, sorry, like I didn't mean to. You know what I mean? Like it happened, but for the most part, I did try to keep it as 100 as possible. So,
and that's the thing too. Like we're only human, and like things can change at the drop of a dime, like in a second when it comes to like Yu-Gi-Oh cards or any card game for that matter. Because like if something happens all of a sudden, like or like a buyout happens, like that news doesn't come right away. Especially if you're working an event, you're too busy like focusing on your business to catch up on all the news. And so like we're bound to make a mistake. I've definitely made a mistake like several times when I've been working at a card shop on prices. And people like, can you double check that price again? Make sure. I'm like, yep, look at. Yep, no, you're right. It happens. That's the kind of thing. just owe up to it. Like accountability is like a huge thing right now.
Absolutely.
And like when vendors take that accountability, it's like, okay, I want to come back to you again. If I need you for more services, I want to come back to you because I know, because now you're in my mind is that, okay, you're honest, you're upfront, you'll tell it to me straight. I know that you're not trying to like trick me or rip me off or anything like that. I want to do business with you again. That's how I am with like when I go to every restaurant that I eat. It's like they're doing they're doing me a service. They're giving me good deals. I'm gonna come back and eat your food again because I think it's really because I also think it's really good on that. And that's the kind of the same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You treat me well, I'm gonna come back again and again and again. And that's why I try to, when I was working at the card shop, I try to develop like a connection with every single customer because I want them to come back. I want to see them again. I want to help them. And not to mention, it's also like growth for the community. You want to grow the Yu-Gi-Oh community. You want it to be bigger. You want to be better because there's a self-interest for you. Because let's think, if we have more people in Yu-Gi-Oh, that means there's more potential buyers for your business. That means that's more potential for your business to thrive, also for the game to get bigger. You want more people to be involved with the game.
Okay, so what you just said, super important. Another PSA, be nice to noobs. All right?
Yes.
Be nice to them. Be nice to casuals. They like so think about it, like I know a lot of like higher level players don't get this, but like at some point someone had to open a pack, okay? If for you to buy that single, someone had to open a pack, all right? And that might be a casual, all right? And just because you're no longer the person who like anyone who like wants to play, like people who are still playing at like 3 and 6 at the end of a YCS, and people are like, why are you still playing at Table 300? Screw you. Like, they want to play. Let them, like, they're here to play the game. Let them play the game. You know what I mean? Like, don't bully them for like encourage them, help them. Like maybe maybe like they'll show you their deck and like ask for something, and they'll be like, oh, like ask for like if I say something, ask for advice. And you're like, oh, what are you doing? You need to play meta. I'm like, I don't really like to. Give the best advice you can for their situation. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. So you want to play the Cloudian deck? I'm trying to think of like the most ridiculous archetype I could think of. This Cloudian deck. Have you thought about maybe some of these? Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like encourage them, keep them coming out. Like make sure that they're having a good time, because like those are the people who like you don't know. One day that guy might be the next top guy. And not even about top guy. Maybe that person recruits the next top guy, because that person is going to go home and say, look how much fun I had at this. Look how much fun I had at this local tournament. Look how much fun I had here or there. Make those people feel welcome. It's scary. It's scary when you're that brand new guy showing up to like a local, 30 people, all better than you with way better cards. They don't know. They might not know about sleeves. They might not know anything. Make that person feel welcome, make that person feel comfortable, because that person, like, you don't know what they're going to turn into, and they're going to tell their friends, and we're going to grow the community. And that's more, that literally lowers the price of cards. And I know you don't think about it that way, but that's more packs opened, that's more players in the tournament, that's bigger prizes, that's the value of cards going up, all of that. More people playing.
And just think that like every single game that kind of goes through this, like they need casuals, because like just think of it now, who's gonna buy Cloudian cards? You're not really gonna, unless like somehow they become like awesome all of a sudden. No professional player is gonna buy like Cloudians. Casual players will. They'll like buy stuff that you typically wouldn't sell. Like they may not buy like droplets or whatnot, but they might buy these off cards that are like maybe worth like $10-$20 or whatnot, and like they'll support that part of the market. Like when I started working at the card shop, I thought it was always about getting get these cards. That's how it is. But then I would get so many people who are like so casual. They come and say, yeah, can I get like, do you have like a bunch of these like OG cards? Do you have like these cards from Legend of Blue Eyes? Do you have all these cards? It's like, and like that are not competitive in any way in their current meta, but they also supply money too. And think for everyone who's out there who's like running a YouTube channel right now, you need casual people who like casual people are part of your subs. Casual people support your channel. Casual,
you know what they are? They're the majority. It's hard to see from the top, but that's the majority of people. I remember like when we were doing 400 or 500 orders like a day, like we would look at like what's on the pull sheet, and I'm talking about voltage, or even actually before that, when like what are the cards that are selling? The cards that are selling are not the cards you think. Like Cloudian cards do sell out. Like the art, like Acid Cloud is hot. Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Dustin, stuff like that. Things that you would never expect. They're not even close to meta, but that made up 95% of all cards sold. Like, it would be hilarious. You'd see like people sit there while like we're selling out of common dust on cards or ultimate athletes and stuff like that, because there's someone out there who's a casual and they I'm gonna try this. And that's the majority of people. So like, it's easy to get lost. Don't. Like, there's a lot of other people out there. And also, don't forget to like live your life. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh is fun. It's fun to do all this other stuff. It's fun to chase the goal. But as someone who has been, I wouldn't say at the top of the mountain, but near the summit enough to where I saw it, and like I had a whole bunch of friends, like everyone with me, like made all the way to the top, and they were like, you don't need to go another 10 feet. I'm like, all right, like trust me, like trust me when I say this, like. Live your life. Don't let the bubble consume it. Like, have fun. At the end of the day, remember it's a game. Yes, you can be upset when you don't win a tournament, but remember that it's not the end of the world. Enjoy the city. Have fun. Like, like at the end of the day, the things I think about all the time are the rides with friends, the friends I had, like going to fun places. In fact, to tie this into wrestling again, I actually, when I would go certain places, cities I visited frequently, which are most, I had rituals and things I always wanted to do, things that made it fun, things I did with like my friends. Like, I remember we did on Team Extreme, we did like putt-putt we always had to have a putt-putt challenge with like stuff. We had annual Cedar Point trips and like live your life. So there were certain restaurants I would eat in certain places and certain rituals I would have. And then I hadn't had them in a while. Like, I always liked going to Spaghetti Warehouse in Columbus, Ohio. I liked, that was you've been there, right?
No, surprisingly, I have not been there. I haven't done a lot of great eating in Columbus. I do know of it, but I haven't actually eaten there yet.
I don't know if it's still open, but hopefully it still is, and maybe I'll come to a Columbus tournament and eat there. But like that was one of them. In Toronto, I know this is weird, but it was the food carts. I liked to go out to the food carts. I like to walk around. God, what's the name of the stadium the Jays play at again?
I believe it's like Rogers Arena now or something.
Rogers,
Yeah.
I like to walk around there, that downtown area. I like to get food there. I like to go see certain things. It's like even like driving down what's that, Queensway or whatever, and like through Mississauga into I like that's nostalgic to me. Like driving through that as the sun comes up is like I'm like, wow, like man, I can't wait to do the. It's just like it's so much. And now going back in wrestling, I'm starting to go to some of these places every now and then. I'm a little bit further away. I can start like doing some of my rituals again, and I'm like, now I want to like show like so Ohio's still a little bit closed off. But when and if I can start doing more Ohio shows, I'm gonna be showing people about Spaghetti Warehouse. I'm gonna bring those Yu-Gi-Oh traditions into this. I want to bring when we start making a little bit more. We'll start doing like Fogo de Chao everywhere that we go. You know what I mean? Like that was a fun one. So like that's what like Yu-Gi-Oh's given so much to me. It's been like. In hindsight, it's hard to see when you're there. It's hard to see while it's happening. Like, but the fun isn't the decks you play or the tournaments or the wins. The fun is the journey. It really is. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you a lot on all that because I only have one YCS top, and that was in Toronto, and that's like an hour and a half away from where I live. But but I've traveled out to Columbus, I've traveled out to Pittsburgh, traveled to all these like big name cities, and I've just had my ass kicked all over the place in some of these cities. I've become close on topping like many of those events, but I've got my ass kicked at so many of these events. But it doesn't discourage me from wanting to go to the next one because why? Because I love the journey. I love being with my friends. I love going out to these restaurants. One ritual thing that I do because I'm a big football fan, I love to if the city has like an NFL stadium, I want to go take a picture of being at the stadium, check it out. Even if I just go get to check out the outside of it, cool. That's something I love to do. And that's just it. You know, the traveling, it's all about the journey when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh. You know,
For sure.
the destination is fun too, but like, you know, being able to win is awesome. But it's also awesome just spending a weekend in a city that you're never in, or like you're barely in, or you're there like once a year or maybe once every couple of years, and just embracing what's there. And like when I go to Philadelphia, I have to have a cheesesteak. Like you can't not have a cheesesteak
You have
when
to.
you're Philly. Exactly. And like when I'm in Chicago, I have to have deep dish pizza. Like it's like tradition for me. It's the stuff like that that, you know, makes a good time. Like I can have like the worst time at a Yu-Gi-Oh event. Like I think I've never been O2 at an event in my life before. Like for like a premium, for like a regional or higher, except for one. And that was one nationals where I started off 0-2, but then I think I rung off like 5 straight, but then I lost like one more, and then I finally dropped out. But like I had a bad time in the game, but I had a great time on the trip. Like I went out, like I went out to a strip club that night. I went out and ate at a fancy restaurant. Yeah, I went out to
the ballet. It's the ballet, Dave. It's the ballet.
Oh, right, the ballet. Right, of course. Yeah. But I mean, it's just stuff like that just makes the trip so fun, and it's a hard reason why like I can't like stop this game, because it's done so much for me. It's done so much for you, and like even though I'm definitely past my prime at this point in terms of the game, doesn't mean I'm not going to stop, because it's just done so much for me. Like I have a full-time job now. And it's hard to juggle Yu-Gi-Oh as much. Yeah. And like I have a girlfriend too that I have to like pay attention to. Yeah. And like I have like other hobbies that I have to do, but you know, it's part of life. And that's kind of with you is now you got to go like into wrestling. You're into wrestling a bit more. Like
I have to commit. You have to commit. This is what I can't spend my day thinking about like what my next deck is when I need to be thinking about what my next match is, what my next move set is, how can I improve myself in ring. But I do have a little bit of advice for people in the game who would like to take themselves to the next level. You can just kind of use in life in general, and that is, you know, they only like losing is for losers. Like don't lose, and you can win or you can learn. When you lose, like when you think about all of the matches that you've ever had, I can barely like, and I know I'm not alone on this. This is everyone. I can barely remember matches I won. Like winning big ones, big on the bubble. I win. Oh my gosh, winning top 8, winning top 4. Doesn't matter. Like all that stuff. I don't remember those wins, but I remember every detail of every loss. You know what I'm saying? I remember it. So. And it's funny because every player, and this is, watch yourself do this, because every Yu-Gi-Oh player does this. After their match, they're just like chomping at the bit. They're just like, can't wait. They're just the word vomit. They want to find the nearest person that they know to just spew out what happened at the last, like, in the last match.
Guilty.
Yes, everyone wants to do it. But here's the thing about that. What you'll find it interesting that no one will tell you, and then I messed up and that's why I lost. That is not what they are thinking. They are saying, oh, but then he sacked me. He like, you know, then he topped this and beat me, and like, oh my God, he had the nuts. No. Look into yourself. Go sit by yourself. Write it down in a journal if you need to, okay? And if you have feature matches, watch them back. Read them, okay? Because 9 out of 10 times, you didn't just get sacked. A decision was made at some point that resulted in you losing, okay? 9 out of 10 times. You want to know how, like, Billy, like, wins as much as he did? Like, it's because he knew, first of all, practiced. He practiced like crazy. But also, like, always have the nuts. Jeff doesn't always have the nuts, but his opponents think that he does, because first of all, he's who he is. But all of that aside, it's because like you feel like he knows he's outplaying you, and sometimes you can get outplayed. That can just happen. Okay?
Yeah, very true.
Look back on how it happened and what you need to improve on to become better. Whether it's even like for me, I was big on like facials and like leading people. And something interesting I would always say is like, if I want my opponent to almost like, if I want to kind of break their spirit, and I know that sounds like rough, but like, you know, win-win. Win when you can. Right? Like something I would do is, and just, I would always be nice, but there were like certain psychological tricks I would do during games. For example, I would take my deck, and when I wanted you to shuffle it, I would put it on your side of the. I would not give it to you. I would never give you my deck. I would always put it on my side of the playmat. So you had to reach every time that you wanted to do something. You were like, you do what I want you to do. I don't do what you do. You're playing me. I'm not playing you. And I would still be nice. I was never not polite. Like I would before tournaments, I would talk to them. But I would talk before I talked to my opponent. I talked to people around them first, and then I talk to them. Then I want to ask, where are you from? What's like? If we're playing in Miami and this person is from New York, now I can start making assumptions about them. You know what I mean? Now I also know if they're here from New York and maybe they're not like a top player, but they're like a good competitive player. Okay, you flew here. Now I'm in your head a little bit more. I know you're gonna be playing not to lose. I know that immediately, especially if you've already taken a loss. So think about that. I'm sorry, this is like really weird. This is for like the 10%. This is like for like the 10% of players who are ready to hear this kind of situation.
Hey,
like,
man.
this is not...
Hey, man, cover all the subjects, bro. Cover it all.
Bro, I've had a lot to say since like it's been, but these are things that other people are not going to tell you. But these are things that like the top people, if you ask them about, they will all tell you that this is real. Okay, like. Part of it is like their aura. Like when you're playing against them, they're playing just like they can draw like garbage just like everyone else, right? It's not about what you draw, it's not how you play, it's how you're literally playing the game physically. If I can start talking about what you're doing after this, I'm gonna put it in a tense where you've lost. I'll start talking to you like, yeah, what are you doing after this? You need a pizza or something? Like where's the nearest food joint? Because now you're in the mentality that like I've just put you in the mentality that you have lost. Like now you're gonna like respect my back rows just a little bit more subconsciously.
Yeah,
my bluffs mean so much more now, and like, just think about those things.
Yeah, you're sizing your opponent up for one thing, and you're just kind of getting a little more background info on it because it's like I think it's Confucius who said this. It's like you not know like how they fight, but it's why they fight, and that's kind of the thing. You got to know your opponent on like like where are they coming from? Like are they from like a small town who's not competitive? That way you kind of have like an idea of what you could be up against. Like okay, they've never put this the first event. Okay, well this is like you can maybe like employ this strategy on because the odds are that they've never seen the strategy before because they're shelled within their own community and haven't really experienced it yet. Well, I mean, my first event was a Shonen Jump Championship. That was my very first event. So like all these guys could like pull out these tricks on the book on me, and I'd be none the wiser because it's my first event. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I don't know what's going on. And again, just knowing it, and like when I know that like I'm going against somebody who's like kind of unsure of himself, I know like I feel like a little bit more relaxed in this, and that kind of sounds a little bit cynical, but at least I can relax a little bit, I can take it easier, and I can like breathe, and I can be a little bit more calm. But if I put it in my head that I'm playing against, oh my god, I'm playing against Jeff Jones, crap, what do I do? Like, what is he gonna throw at me? Like he's already in my head, and
whether you misplay or not,
thing.
He doesn't. He's already beat you. You have already lost. It's a complete win.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's why the people who win all the time keep winning. It's because a lot of people go into that match thinking they have a puncher's chance. And realistically, they have just the same odds of drawing a good hand as you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're not
exactly
cheating, but it feels like they're cheating because every time that they get you, you feel like the world is over. But no, you counterpunch. You're still in it. Keep playing. But that's the thing. A lot of people don't. This is a big roundabout way of saying it. Back to my initial point. Figure out why you're losing. Don't be that guy who's like, he had the nuts. And yes, sometimes the answer is yes, he had the nuts, I had nothing. That will happen. But you know how often it happens? Not as often as you think.
Yeah.
So don't be blinded by your pride. Write that down. Figure out what they did to beat you. Think about everything. How did they talk to you? Who were they? What were you? Did you get to the match early enough to be the one facing the clock so that you could pay attention for when it hits zero?
I do that all the time.
Huge. That's huge. All the people, I lost the time. Oh yeah? Were you sitting where you could face the clock? Oh no? Well then shut up.
That's such a little quirk that like I haven't broadcasted to people, but I always sit on the side where I can see the clock. Like I want to get to my table first so I can see it. And if I don't, this is another little dirty trick that I do too. If I'm the second to be, if I'm the second to be at the table, I won't sit at my table right away, because if my person pulls out their deck like immediately and shows me a card, it's like, okay, I know what they're playing. Now I know how to act. Exactly. Like now I know how to make the move. Like it's playing the game before the game starts. And technically there's nothing wrong with what I just did. Like I didn't actually like pick up his deck and just like blatantly look at it. He just revealed it to me. It's like if you like reveal your license to like a cop or something when they never asked you for it, but then they saw it. It's like, okay, well, now you've given me this free information. That's something I can use against now.
Like, and I'm saying this like, know that when you're up against a good player or like whatever, like when and this is something like, if you really want to ask someone like Hoven, who is smart, he is so smart, he's being so successful in business. Congratulations to him. When you sit down, like again, and I say this in hindsight, when you sit down across from me, first of all, select when I get to the table, what I'm like watching the clock. That's strategy. From the moment I ask you, hi, I'm Alex, where are you from? In fact, I started playing the game before you even sat down. I started talking to people around me to make sure they know who I am. So when you sit down, you're sitting down to a party that's my party already. And now you're going to sit down. Where are you from? I've already started beating you. Answer. I'm already beating you there. So that's what I'm saying. When you think that you don't know, and that you like, when you're saying, oh, like this happened and that happened, because no, like, all right, and start thinking about that. You'll just get better and better and better when you stop lying to yourself. You start accepting. Like now you're realizing, oh, okay, maybe I need to be like, you'll start realizing there's like something called like momentum, or like you'll start, because when you start thinking, oh, my opponent takes up a card, sets it, you're less worried about what the back row is. You'll start getting better at making reads at hand traps. You'll start getting better at like making reads like what they're trying to like. You'll start getting better at figuring out what your opponent is trying to do instead of just focusing on what you're trying to do. Which a lot of people will go, I didn't make any misplays. I didn't do anything wrong. But you did, because you were so focused on what you were doing that you were not focusing on what your opponent was doing, because you can figure out all of the cards your opponent has. And I would do it sometimes. I would call cards out that people had. They would think that I was cheating, but I wasn't. I just knew what those cards were. And now you're even more tilted. Yeah. But think about that. The pro players aren't cheating sometimes. They know what you're setting because they were paying attention to how you were playing. Not a tell that you gave necessarily physically, but like you were playing around certain things, so it makes sense that this is X, Y, and Z. They're making their reads. Poker 101. That's what they're doing.
It's a big psychological game, and that's one of the reasons why I love playing with people in real life. And I'm not the biggest fan of like remote duels and stuff, whatnot, because you know it kind of takes away a little bit. Yeah, you can. I'm just not a big fan of it, but you definitely can. It's a little bit. It might be a little bit trickier, but I like going right in front of my opponents, like looking them dead in the eye and having a real conversation with them, and really learning more about them. Because the more info that they're giving me, like the more that I can use to my advantage. And like if I were to go against like somebody who's better than me, let's say Jesse Cotton, for example, and I play against him. If I look at
another guy who popped off right after I left, by the way, big shout out to him. Way to kill it, buddy.
And if I see him, if I play against him and he does like a peculiar move, it's like, now I'm suspicious. Now I'm gonna like second guess myself. It's like, so if he did a very passive move, does that mean he's got a bunch of hand traps on my hand? It's like, oh, how am I gonna play this now? And when I try to dance around so much, I stray away from like my actual strategy, and then I get killed for it because I'm still in my own head. He's beaten me before I even have a chance to play the game.
What in reality for him might have been a move of desperation, like setting a hand trap or something like that. Like a move of desperation. Maybe he bricked, and you're like, oh man, this is Jesse Cotton, and you're drawing your hand, and you're like, you're going to over-respect whatever he does in that moment, even if it was out of desperation, but you just don't know. And hey, 2 or 3 cards, 2 or 3 turns later can make or break any hand.
It really can.
Yep.
and we have an example of like a direct example with you of how like you can turn any hand, like any bad, terrible hand, into a championship play. Like look at Billy breaking Columbus. He opened up triple Tengu in game 3. And he beat Alistair. And everyone was like shocked and dumbfounded. It's like, I can't believe like break 1 with drawing triple Tengu. And he just played as if, and he never played I don't think he ever played the card. He never played a Tengu at all. He just played as if like he just had a great hand because he knew what he was doing. And that's how he won. And that was his second championship in a row after he won in Toronto. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh yeah. I think I was standing behind Alistair for that match. And I was like looking at Alistair's hand. And if you look at back, his hand wasn't great either, but it was way better than Billy's. And I was watching it. I was like, oh, man, he might be in trouble because I didn't know that Billy had bricked himself. So, but yes, that's a perfect example. And like, hey, that's another thing that people can really do. Go back, like, do your homework. Look at the other eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, look at what the legacy players did. Read those, like, big pivotal matches. See how it happened because, like, that's going to impact you now. I get that like the game is so incredibly different. It's all wombo combo, but you want to compare that to wrestling one more time. As you know, wrestling today is a lot of like flips and kicks and flash and everything in the ring moves 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
But any like good worker will tell you that any good wrestler will tell you that they watch a lot of old stuff too, in addition to all that stuff, because you might get an ooh and an ah from a crowd for doing a million flips and like being a crazy gymnast. And then all of a sudden one guy, let's call him The Rock, let's call him Steve Austin, let's call him Ric Flair, let's call him Hulk Hogan, let's call him John Cena. One eyebrow raise, one hell yeah. One look at the crowd with Hulk Hogan, and all of a sudden did as much as that whole combo just took. So like there's something to be learned from these earlier games. There's like making the read is a big one. Making the read is absolutely everything. Yes. Because again, in a world where everything is combo-rific, you're paying attention to what you have. When you can finally start like control, like once you start understanding and being able to read what your opponent has, you can start controlling what they do by how you play what you have, particularly when you're bricking.
Yeah, and I know like a lot of people like to complain where like they take so much time making a move, but if you keep consistent with that moniker, you can always like plant in your opponent's head. It's like, okay, I could have something for every single move you do, and then that's where they start to like kind of doubt themselves a little bit. Okay, maybe he's got this, so maybe I should play around this card. Maybe I should play around this card, and that's why like I see so many players like take so much time with it because they're just being psychological. Like I had that complaint early on in my Yu-Gi-Oh career playing that. It's like, why, like I could have made that move in 5 seconds. Why did you not make that move like so much quicker? And then as I started to get like climb the ranks, I realized, okay, they're doing this because they're
controlling the tempo.
That's exactly what it is. And then maybe they want to eat at the clock a little bit more because that's playing to their advantage a little bit. And you know, sometimes you have to do like the funny move. It's like, why would you do that? Maybe to throw it off, or you're just trying to eat more clock because you know time rules are so much more important than they ever have been with the rule change and whatnot. So it's
talking about tempo.
Yeah,
I'm sorry if I can cut you off really quick.
Yeah, go.
Is another like thing that comes outside of it. Here's another like strategy you can use. And like again, it might sound like a dick move, but you know, it is what it is. If you're gonna play slow, you don't even have to slow play. I'm not talking about slow playing. I mean playing slow and a little bit methodically, and then all of a sudden you start picking up the pace, pop, like on your opponent. Like give them a chance to respond. Of course, you definitely want that. But like bring it up and don't be obnoxious about it. Don't go from like playing like one card a minute to like insanity. But like pick up the pace and slow it down and pick it up and slow it down. And you will be shocked at how much your opponent will miss things. And they'll just like and they're not going to say anything because like they wanted you to play faster to begin with, or they wanted you to play slower. And so like. Do you have a response? No. Boom. 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 Oh, crap. You know what I mean? And now they're like 3 plays back. Oh, I did have a response. Oh, no. Now I'm behind. Like now you're in their head. Now they're going to lose. It's all that. So, and by the way, I was a misplay machine. So I was a misplay machine.
Oh, I've
But
done
I
that a
still
bunch
had-
too.
Yes, but I still had success in won games that I shouldn't have because even though I was a misplay machine, I was playing decks that I believed in. I played tech cards that people didn't know were coming. And at the end of the day, like I was able to make the right reads and control my opponent enough to make up for my misplays,
Mm-hmm.
which, there's a lot to be said for that too.
Yeah, and I've won so many games where I had no business winning, but because the opponent just decided to, because they kind of played like, they kind of did like the name drop kind of moniker. It's like, oh, you're this. Well, it's like, you probably got this and whatnot. Like they lowered their confidence for no reason whatsoever. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to pounce on this. I'm going to kind of like, I'm going to double down on this and, pretend I've got something. And then, like we said before, one card off the top of the deck can completely change the whole entire face of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I've won so many games that I had no business winning. It's just
Mm-hmm.
keeping yourself in there. Of course, there's
There's
strategic reasons to scoop, and they do exist. But but there are times where if you really stick it out, there are chances that you can win. And that's why I hate when people just like scoop. It's like, yeah, you've got this. Like I know there's one person from my local, I won't name them, but they always just like, yeah, you've got this one. I'm like, why did you scoop? Because I've had so many people scoop because I look at my hand, I'm like, if they had just played this game like a turn longer, my hand is not very good right now, and I would have got beaten with if they just had like one negate. But it's just the illusion of me having like 3 cards in my hand that I have I've got something. So like I've definitely like won a lot of games that I had no business whatsoever winning. But then again, it's psychological sometimes. It's what you can plant in their head when what you don't let get into your head too. And that's a big thing I see now with a lot of the great players. Like they know how to play psychologically. You see it with poker. They know how to play psychologically.
Oh yeah,
with
they're
it.
making everything.
That's why,
and you can still do that online. You can do it remotely. You
Yep.
can do it remotely. So what I'm saying is, like, when I say like pay attention to pick up tells and stuff, I'm not talking about they moved their eyes here and now I know. No. I mean, there is that, but like, not even close. That's not even close to as effective as like how they're playing their hand.
Yeah.
When did they set that? When did they like make this decision? When they're making decisions and why are a huge deal. Oh, and by the way, every now and then in person, this is an in-person thing, sometimes just do math, just for fun. Just get on your pen and paper and do a little bit of math. Make it kind of make sense. But it makes your opponent think that you might be able to OTK them right now for no reason.
Yep.
Like, just do math. It'll tilt them. Trust me. Maybe it won't, but why not?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, only do that when you're willing to kill clock. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Scare
exactly that. It's these little things that just make you better. Like I always tell this to everybody else. It's like when I know I'm about to win or lose and we're going to the next game, I'll look at my opponent's graveyard, look at all their cards and say, okay, what do they have? What do they don't have? It's like, okay, this is information for me for the next game. So I know, so I have like a better understanding of what I should be siding in, what I shouldn't be siding in. That's just extra advice. And, if you know that you're not going to win a game, it's like, okay, scoop, don't play a single card. Don't let your opponent know what they're doing. There's strategic advantages to doing certain things like this that like kind of seem whack, but it's these little things that kind of help take people over the top. And this is information that's not really like widely spread among like the rest of the Yu-Gi-Oh community, or these little tidbits. And, I'm glad that we're able to bring some of these out now because I hope some people get better by this. But nobody took my advice. Like, look at your opponent's graveyard before the game is over. Look at it. See what kind of information you get. Knowledge is power. Like every single tidbit of information helps. It helps, and like I can't stress that out enough to everybody who plays this game. Like you can't stop learning in this game. So keep your ego in check and keep learning and keep getting better. Like I cannot stress that enough.
And be honest with yourself. And especially after a loss, go cool off. You don't need to word vomit that to the next guy. No one wants to hear it. No one cares. All they're waiting for, anytime after you win or lose, doesn't matter, and you walk up to another Yu-Gi-Oh player, they might listen to you, but they're not listening to you. They're like just waiting to word vomit onto you next. They're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can bitch about their own thing. And realistically, what you're doing is you're setting yourself up to be like, oh, and then I got screwed. And then you want to say that. But that's not really what happened.
Yeah.
Take a step back from yourself. Think about what happened. Don't let it happen again. Like, play every match like every single match, you are 0-0.
Yep.
Every single match, you are 0-0. and just keep playing. Like, don't let your record tilt you. Don't let anything tilt you.
Mm-hmm. And like 98% of the time, the person you just talked to probably isn't going to remember what the heck just happened to you. Even like 5 minutes later, they're probably not going to remember. And then not to mention,
they won.
Like,
they don't care.
They don't care. They won. And then like that puts you like in a rotten mood for the next game. And like I don't think anybody thinks as well when they're angry or when they're tilted. You don't think as well. You think better with a level head when it's clear and it's more fresh. You don't take. I try to like breathe a bit. I try to go back and say, okay, what went wrong? Where did I go wrong? What the heck happened when I lost? Because that's how you learn. It's like you're gonna get your butt kicked no matter what. Like every single regional, every event that I've topped, I've lost a match.
Yep.
I've never been undefeated before. I've lost a match, even when I was at my best. It's like, okay, what happened? Why did I lose? And let's take that into the next match. Let's keep going. I will admit, I've been tilted before. I've been upset at myself because of certain games, and that's just natural. That happens to a lot of people. But it's being able to contain it and go on from there.
So when you're tilting, and I think this needs to be explained sometimes a little bit, especially I know that we're talking what we're talking about is for, again, this is like the 10%. This is like the people who are already there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to further clarify, when you are tilting, some of the mistakes that you are making, sometimes they are literally in how you are playing. Yes. Sometimes you're going to misstep your combo. Sometimes you are not going to see what you had. Sometimes you're going to miss what your opponent has and like misplay your hand trap, things like that. But more importantly, and more commonly, when you're talking about a misplay based on being, quotes, tilted, you are talking, and these are the ones that no one notices, it's over-respecting your opponent. That's what it is. It's giving your opponent too much respect. It's you getting in your head, like, what if, and you're making those reads incorrectly. You're fake making reads. You are making reads in worst case scenarios all the time. Like, you're basically like, if this was a poker hand, your opponent might be showing 13% chance of winning, or they're there. You're thinking that 13% is a guarantee. It's like the gambler's mentality of someone playing blackjack. The book says that your opponent, that the dealer always has a 10 face down. You're always thinking, but realistically, the odds are that they do not. And the odds are, you're saying your opponent probably has the nuts, and they probably don't. The odds are that they don't. So that's the big mistake that so many people make, and that's what they're not thinking about. That's what they're not thinking about when they're doing it, and that's what they're not thinking of when they lose. They think they got sacked, but no, they let their opponent draw into whatever was happening. Yes, maybe you made a mistake, but honestly, sometimes your mistakes, like while you're comboing off or whatever, unless it's very egregious, those mistakes are not the ones that lose you the match. The ones that make you lose the match are the ones that you aren't even paying attention to. It's over-respecting your opponent.
Yeah, this was great advice that Andres Toros told me like last month. And he told me, you know what? Don't worry about who's in front of you. Worry about your game. Worry about your game and how you play it, and that's how you get better. Because and I've had that. I've fallen into that trap before, where like when I see like a big name in front of me, it's like, like if because I think defensively, it's like, okay, if I lose, I have the excuse to say, well, I went against this guy, so that's why he beat me. Like that's like, but you get that out of your head, and then you think, okay, let's believe in what I can do. What can I do to do better?
I will say that there is a certain, so yes, 100% to 99% of the players out there, that until you're ready to make the jump, then definitely care what your opponent is. And the reason when I say that, I mean, like, people are going to play a certain way based on their experience level and what they're there to do. And I know this is very weird, but I actually had a very good record against pro players.
Yeah.
Like, the best of the best, I actually have a very, very strong win-loss record against. The reason is because, I just don't respect them even a little. And I know that they're going to play in a way that they're playing like they're that guy. Like, I'm not gonna like, I don't want to say I don't want to talk about beating like specific people and why, but I will say, like, Michael Jordan plays like Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're up against like a top player like that, they're used to everyone giving them the respect. Don't respect them. Like they're playing like you're gonna respect everything. Screw that. Get them. And you have to know. Like you have to know when your opponent. Oh, where are you from? Okay, you're a local guy. Maybe you're playing something a little off the wall. Okay, we're both like 1-1 right now, so or like even 2-1. So there's a chance that you're still sitting here. You might be playing something wacky. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's a good chance like you don't care at all what my backers are. You don't care at all about my hand traps. You are going to show me no respect. So if I know they're going to show me no respect, I know they're going to play reckless. That's how I'm going to play against them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah, eventually there does become a level to that. But yes, for what you were saying, 99% of the people, until you master that, don't go into this other stuff. But like, know that it is happening to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Be conscious of it happening. You don't have to understand how, but be conscious that it's happening.
And just think of it, it's like sports, you know, if you're going up against, like, let's say football, if you're going up against Tom Brady, you can respect him all you want. But if you're on the opposite team, what's your job as a defensive lineman? You're out to tackle him. You're out to disrupt him. You got to, like,
disrespect. Put pressure on Brady.
Yeah, you have to hit him. You have to do it. That's the same with Yu-Gi-Oh! What's your job? Reduce their life points to 0. Outside of those weird, like, you know, win conditions. What's your point? What do you have to do? You've got to beat them down. You've got to disrespect them on the field. You've got to beat them. You've got to pummel them. Like that's what you have to do. That's
what Tampa Bay did to Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, that's what they did.
In that regular season game. He took a couple beatings and tilt.
You got to beat him. You have to, like, that's what I have to do to beat my opponent. I have to just be reckless. Sometimes I got to put a 5-negate board in the field and not let them play the game because that's your job. You're supposed to win. So that's just what it is. And that's just the bare basics of what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. That's the bare basics of, like, you know, football as a defensive lineman.
All strategy games, including football, including sports.
Yep, exactly that. You have to, like, in a sense, disrespect your opponent in some way, shape, or form, and that's by beating them down in whatever moniker that you're supposed to do in the game. And that's just how it is. And just, you know, people need to remember that. You know, respect is cool, like, outside of the game, but when you're in the game, go beat them, take them down.
That's politely. Don't be mean. Don't be a dick. It is a game. That's how. Like don't be mean to noobs. Like, yes, and also have fun while you're doing it. Yes, like, play the game seriously. Also, like, how was I, like, if I'm like, where are you from? Oh, that's awesome. Like, that I now I made a read and I am, like, making advances on you, but at the same time, it's like, making advances, right? I'm not being mean. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to be mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there are situations that you'll get mean back if you start calling people cheater. By the way, if you start making reads on your opponent and they start calling you a cheater, that's its own form of power. So, like, use that wisely, because, like, you aren't cheating. You know that. There's no way you can be caught for cheating because you aren't cheating. But now they think you have the nuts all the time. So that's its own thing.
And now they get frustrated. Oh, man, T-Pants, what a conversation that we had tonight, man. I'm so glad that I had you on, and I'm so glad that I'm, like, seeing you. Of course, man, I'm so glad that I'm, like, seeing you succeed well in wrestling, man. You know that I'm going to support you all the way for that, bro. So, man, keep that going. After I had that conversation with you back in Chicago, I was like, man, like, T-Pants totally can do this. Like, he absolutely can be a wrestler. Like, I knew you had the physique already. Like, we chopped each other like crazy for fun at these events. I'm like, yeah, T-Pants has the personality. T-Pants has the physique. He's got the skill. And when you told me you were getting into it, I'm like, yes, do it, T-Pants. Do it, buddy. And I'm so glad you're, like, you are where you are now, man. So I hope you go far with it, bro. And who knows? So maybe we'll see each other in the ring together one day. Who knows?
Ooh, we must. And you know what? Regardless of whether we do or we don't, I will see you again at YCSs or regionals when they open back up. I'm hungry, not necessarily to play, but I am hungry for a road trip. I am hungry to see old friends, and that is, you know. And if you see me, come talk to me, man. Like, let's shoot it, you know.
Yep, 100%. And I'm sure that everybody kind of feels the same way too. Once you know, things start opening up again with this pandemic happening, man. All of us are itching to go out, man. So, T-Pants, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Any shout outs you want to give before we go?
Yeah, a couple quick ones. Shout out to my girlfriend Britt. She's a tattoo artist, Peanut Brittles on Instagram. Check her out. Shout out to this podcast called Wrestling Rage. They do a lot of good things for independent wrestling. Yep. You can actually won Indie Idol, which is a promo competition. You can check that out on their YouTube channel. Big shout out to you, Bowie. You're the man. Thank you for doing this. Big shout out to all of the stores killing it right now. I already shouted out a few of them. Thank you for everything that you do and staying open during the pandemic in whatever ways that you can. Like, we can't wait to get back on the road and start doing it. Thanks to all the players for being awesome. All the players that I had named, thank you so much. Also, big thank you to the guys who do work for Konami. They I hate to say it, they overwork and are underpaid because they love their jobs. Be nice to them. Be nice to judges. They do not get enough for what they put up with. They are excellent. They do it because they love it. Be nice to the new guys. Support your local businesses. Support vendors. Support the game. And thank you, everyone, for playing. And thank you so much to the game and to the community for being so nice to me for so many years. You paid the bills for me. To be honest, you kind of still do. I love you guys so much. You'll always have like a big part of my heart. And thank you for all the experiences you gave. Like, there's, if one day, maybe, if there's anything I can do down the road to better the game and the community, I will do everything that I can to do so. It's great. It made me. I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for this chapter of my life that spanned since I was like 9 years old. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Bowie, for having me on.
Thank you.
I'm getting emotional
Thank you, buddy. Well, thank you, man, for coming on. That is Alex Thunderpants, Vansant, perennial premier event topper, and now turned professional wrestler, man. He's living out my life now that I kind of put it in the back door a little bit. Not to say I'm done with wrestling, but it's a little bit on the back burner now that I'm like kind of like full out career and everything like that.